Thanks for coming to the Schaumburg Library. I'm Jennifer. Thank you for making out on this cold night that we have here, for making the most of Social Security. We have Stacy Bromann here from the Dala group who's going to present for us tonight, and we're so grateful to have her here with us. And if you're attending from home, you can turn captions on in case you're missing anything. Also, if you want to ask a question and you're at home, please put it in the Q&A or the chat and we'll ask it for you at the end. If you're here in person with us, if you could wait until the end with your questions, and I will go around with the microphone. That way everyone can hear you when you ask your question. Also, the restroom is just right outside this door to your left if you need it during the presentation. And thank you so much for supporting the library.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you guys all also for coming out. So we're going to talk about Social Security tonight. I like to start though by just introducing everything that's in this folder so that you have an idea of what all we have here. So this first sheet is the Social Security Quick Reference Guide. So it has a ton of important facts and figures for Social Security benefits, as like dates and just different things like that. So that's definitely something that you might reference throughout the night. There's this other side of the folder is a little bit more stacked with information. The back page is actually a notes page. So as we're discussing things tonight, and if you have a question that comes up, write it down. We'll come back to it. Or just also take notes for different things along the way. This form right here is just pictures of everyone on our team. We've actually added a few people, I think 1 or 2 people since that picture was taken. So this just gives you an idea of who is on our team. Then this brochure right here actually explains a little bit more about our firm and how we work with our clients if you're interested in that. These two postcard size things, this first one with the couple on it is a recording of this presentation. So if you have friends or family that weren't able to be here tonight, you can share this with them, or we are covering a lot of information and you may want to hear it again. So you can also use this just for yourself if you wanted to see it more than one time. This next one just links to our YouTube channel. My boss, Mike Heatwell, has made a number of different videos regarding retirement planning and things like that. So if you want more topics than just Social Security, you can use that second postcard. And then this last piece is a seminar survey card. You are under no obligation to fill it out. However, at the end of the presentation, I will be offering a free consultation for anyone that's interested, and you would sign up for that by giving that back to me. So if you are interested in that, I will be looking for that towards the end. And I'm also not going to get that in there quickly. So we will move on from that. So I always want to start out besides introducing that folder, by introducing myself and telling a little bit more about why I became a financial planner. So I always like to tell a little bit of my origin story. So I am sitting on my mom's lap in that cute red dress that she sewed, by the way, because that's how awesome she was. She made almost all of my clothes when I was that age, but my mom stayed at home with us. So I'm sitting with my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. I think it was about 1983. My dad was a farmer. I was born in 1980, like right as the farm crisis was kind of going on and all that. And so finances were always just kind of a hot topic. My mom stayed at home with us, and ideally they did everything that they should have done, especially financially. They saved, they paid their bills, they had life insurance, they really thought they had a plan. Unfortunately for us, the advice that they followed didn't work out as well as we would have hoped. My mom ended up getting sick when I was about 9.5, just about to be 10. And she suffered with breast cancer, 2 different bouts, and passed away the June in between my 4th and 5th grade year, right before I turned 11. And they had life insurance, but they had $40,000 on my mom. They were told that they didn't need to replace her income because she wasn't bringing in income. And she was sick for a good amount of time, but for the last 2 weeks, she was in the hospital for 2 consecutive weeks. And so the bills that came after all of that wiped out the $40,000, and there was nothing left to really plan for a future for us. And my dad obviously did not burden me with any of that information when I was a kid. But if you want to take a fast forward, so my husband and I got married right out of college. And right before I became a financial advisor, when we were planning our future, I talked to my dad about the life insurance because he was the person that I talked to really about anything. And I'll never forget what he said. The literal sentence is, "Let me tell you what not to do." And he went on to explain everything and told me why, even if I don't out-earn my husband, why I needed to have an equivalent amount of life insurance to take care of those two precious girls that you see in front of me and my husband. So that was really super impactful because we got life insurance before they were born. We planned ahead and all of that. But I never want my kids or any of my clients to go through what we went through financially. It was devastating enough after her passing that the financial burden didn't need to be there. And so that is one thing that I want to provide for my clients is peace of mind. And so that is one of the reasons that we do this education. Obviously, life insurance is an important planning piece, but Social Security is also a really big piece of retirement. And our clients, about 80% of our clientele at the firm that we work with are either in retirement or nearing retirement. And so Social Security is one of those common conversations that we have on a daily basis. And it's not as simple as you would hope because it's invented by our government, so there's a lot of moving pieces. So we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about the outlook of Social Security. We're going to talk about how you qualify. We're going to talk about filing strategies for individuals, married couples, divorced individuals, as well as surviving spouses. We're going to talk about the effects of public pensions. We're going to talk about retroactive benefits, withdrawal of benefits, cost of living increases, penalties for working while earning, and taxation. So we will cover almost everything that there is to cover with Social Security. The first thing that we're going to talk about, again, is just kind of the uncertain future of Social Security. So as it stands right now, Social Security should have enough resources to pay 100% of scheduled benefits until 2033. So my husband and I got married in 2003, and at that time, 2033 sounded like forever, right? Like 30 years. Well, it's 2026, and it is now 7 years from today. My younger daughter will still be in college. And that still feels like way too soon. But 2033 is not as far away as I had once thought. So we do know that there needs to be some changes, but let's look at one of the things that this graph represents is how many workers used to pay into the system for every one person receiving benefits compared to now what that looks like. So back in 1950, there were 16.5 workers paying into the system for every one person that was receiving benefits. As you can see down on the left, in 2023, there was 2.7 workers paying into the system for every one person receiving benefits. And if you fast forward to 2035, they expect that number to actually go a little bit less. They anticipate that there will be actually only 2.4 workers paying into the system for every one person that's receiving benefits. So the amount of people in the workforce hasn't declined, but the amount of people working versus the amount of people receiving benefits has changed, partially because of life expectancy. So back in 1950, the life expectancy in retirement was very little compared to what it is today. People are living quite a lot longer. So that's obviously one of those things. But if you think of like family sizes, my parents were each one of 4 or one of 5 siblings. I was one of 3. I have 2 kids, and that's, family sizes are just different as well. So like, there's just less workers paying into the ratio of people receiving benefits. If nothing changes with Social Security and everything that we're going to discuss later on today, so if that happens, they will no longer have a surplus in 2033, which means that benefits would reduce potentially by 20 to 25%, which is a pretty significant difference. So there are a number of different things that could change. They could increase the maximum amount that's taxed with wages. It's currently, I think, $186,000 annually. So they can increase that. They could increase the full retirement age. Back in 1950, the full retirement age was 65. They moved it to 66, and now they've moved it to 67. Anybody that's born after 1960, their full retirement age is 67. Anyone that was born before 1954, it was 65, 66, and then they had a graduated scale. So they've made some changes along the way. I think they could also increase the minimum age of filing, because the minimum age hasn't really changed. It was 62 before as well, and then with the increase of the full retirement age, I could see that happening as well. There's a number of different things that could change, but that is one thing to kind of keep in mind, is that Social Security will still be funded. It just won't be funded what it is today unless they make some changes. Moving along, so we want to talk about how you become eligible for Social Security. So the main way that you become eligible is to be a worker who has accumulated a minimum of 40 work credits. You might also hear a credit be called a quarter. So you can get up to 4 credits or 4 quarters per year. In 2026, 1 quarter is defined as $1,890 in earned income. And you can get, again, up to 4 per year, which means that you would have to earn $7,560 to get those 4 quarters per year, or for that year. So it's actually not overly difficult to qualify for Social Security. Even working part-time, it's very easy. Part-time, I mean, 10 hours a week and you could still earn the $7,560. So it's not horribly difficult to qualify, but then you have to take it a step further. So your benefit is based on an average of the highest 35 years of earnings. So I'm sure we have some people in this room that have worked well past the 35-year mark. If you started working at 18 or at 20 and you're approaching 60, it's very easy to have worked beyond the 35 years. So if you've worked more than 35 years, they're going to take out those lower years of earnings, and your benefit then is going to be based on the average of the highest 35 years. Obviously, with only 40 credits needed to qualify, you could work 10 years on average, and you would still qualify for benefits, but then when you're looking at your benefit being based on those highest 35 years, you would obviously have quite a few years where there would be a 0 in those earnings, which would then obviously bring the average down. So that's how you become eligible, and then also what your benefit is based on. The second way that you would be eligible for Social Security would be to be the spouse of an eligible worker. If you are the spouse of an eligible worker, you would qualify for a spousal benefit. An ex-spouse of an eligible worker who is married for at least 10 years to that eligible worker would qualify for an ex-spousal benefit potentially. And then finally, the final way to qualify would be to be the surviving spouse of an eligible worker, meaning then that they have passed away. Your benefit would be based on their earnings. The next slide. So we're looking at a Social Security statement. Nope, that is not what I wanted to do. Okay, so that middle part right there where you see that graph with the bar lines that go out and the paragraph to the left of it is what we are going to focus on, which is the meat and potatoes of what your retirement earnings look like. So you can see that first statement up there. You have earned enough credits to qualify for retirement benefits. So in this scenario, this worker already has the 40 credits. So they fully qualify for those Social Security benefits. The next sentence, to qualify for your benefits, you learn the credits, everything that we just talked about. The next piece, your full retirement age is 67. So for this worker, their birthday is April 5th of 1962, which means that their full retirement age is 67. It is important that you verify that the birthday is correct, also that your name spelling is correct and things like that, because If it's not, you do need to go through a process to verify all of the information with the Social Security Administration. So it is important that we're also verifying this information to be correct along the way. Following along in that same paragraph, though, we can see you can file as early as age 62 and you can delay your benefits up until age 70. So again, the full retirement age is 67, so that means that their full retirement age benefit would be $2,119 monthly. If you look up, each year that they file early, you notice that their benefit is decreased. So that's about a 6% decrease per year that you file early, which works out to about 0.5% per month, because obviously it's not, you don't only get to file on your birthday, you can file at any time during the year, starting at age 62 and beyond. So if they're filing 5 years early, that's about a 30% decrease in benefits from that original full retirement age. You can also see, though, if you go beyond, if you delay filing beyond your full retirement age, you're taking about an 8% increase each year that you delay. So you can see there is a pretty significant range based on the lowest benefit to the highest benefit. Just knowing that the full retirement age is where you don't have any reductions, but you can again delay up until 70 with, and get that extra bump each year too. The next thing that we want to look at, this last paragraph is super important too. These personalized estimates are based on your earnings to date and assume that you would continue to earn, in this worker's case, $54,489 per year until they start benefits. So why that is important is they're assuming your earnings. So if you remember a couple slides ago, your earnings are based on the highest 35 years of earnings. So your benefits, I'm sorry, are based on the highest 35 years of earnings. So if they're making that assumption and you're, let's just say 58, it's going to be at least 4 years until you could file. You may still have your 35 years in, but if at the very beginning your wages adjusted for inflation would be significantly lower than what you're currently earning, if there is going to be zeros in that and there would be a gap of earnings and to collection, that might actually affect those estimates. So it's important that that all of those things are accurate. So if there's going to be a situation where you might retire and stop working but not start collecting for a few years, you can actually go online through ssa.gov. If you're on this particular statement, you click on that hyperlink and they will you can adjust or manipulate your earnings to be accurate to what they should be, which might then obviously make those numbers change. The next page that we're going to look at. So this is page 2. If you're looking online at your benefit, this is page 2, which is your earnings record. Also super important to take a look at because we do not ever want to make an assumption that everything is correct. We want to verify that it is correct. So even if you've got a few years until retirement, it would behoove you to actually log on and verify this information because if there's inaccuracies, you actually have to use your tax return to provide that to the Social Security Administration to verify the difference. So if I wasn't paying attention and I had inaccurate numbers for, let's say, 2001, I don't know about you, but I don't still have those tax returns. So you want to make sure that you're checking this every so often to verify the information so that it's not such a pain to make a correction if you need to. Okay, so let's talk about Social Security filing strategies. So we are going to cover the full gamut from individuals to married to divorce to survivor, but we're going to start with individuals. So there's obviously, and this isn't new because we looked at the chart before, but you can file as early as 62. You can wait until your full retirement age or you can delay until it's maximized. But one of the thought processes and one of the common questions is, if I delay, how much am I leaving behind? And how long does it take me to make up for what I've left behind if I don't choose to take my benefits right away? So right here, if you So this full retirement age is 66, which means that this person was born before 1954. But if we're assuming their full retirement age is 66, the full retirement benefit would be $2,000 a month. Again, they can take it early and take that reduction. Their benefit would then be $1,500 a month, because 6% times 4 in this case would be essentially 24%. So their reduced monthly benefit would be $1,500 a month. If they collect that for 12 months out of the year, that's an $18,000 total collection from Social Security. So $18,000 is nothing to sneeze at, right? It's a pretty good chunk of money. So if I not only delay at 62, but I delay for the next 4 years, 18,000 times 4 is $72,000. So I would be leaving behind $72,000 by delaying my benefit until age 66. That's a good chunk of money. I don't know about you, but if there was $72,000 on the sidewalk, I would think about picking it up, right? So I have to have a good reason to leave it behind. So let's take a look. Again, my full retirement age monthly benefit would be $2,000 monthly. That's $24,000 annually, which is $6,000 more per year for the rest of my life that I would collect if I delayed my benefit until 66, or my full retirement age. So that's $6,000 annually, but I've left $72,000 behind. How long does it take me to make up for that $72,000? Any math majors? It's 12 years. So it takes me 12 years. So if I start at 66, that means I have to live until at least 78, and then I'm in the black. Which I hope to live well beyond 78 as long as I'm vibrant and healthy, and I would assume most people would feel the same way. But that is 12 years though, right? That's a good chunk of time. So that's that. Then we take it the step further. So what if I delay until 70? That means that I'm now leaving a good chunk of money again behind. If I delay from 66 to 70, I'm collecting at 66 $24,000 monthly, right? 24,000 times 4 is $96,000 for 4 years that I've now left behind. I am collecting $640 more a month because my benefit at age 70 is $2,640. That annual increased amount is $7,680. So if I'm collecting $7,680 more, how long does it take for me to make up for that $96,000 that I left behind? It's about 12.5 years, which means then from 70, I have to be about 82 and a half to be again in the black. You can see that if all things are the same and all 3 of those individuals lived until 90, the individual that waited until 70 actually does collect the same or the most amount of money even though they started last. But I don't think if you took 3 people that were born on the same day, they would all live until 90, right? It would be very unlikely. So then we think about longevity, we think about health, we think about family history. Those are the starting off point. Then, am I still working? Do I have other assets? What are my expenses? The list can go on, but that's kind of the starting off point to think about whether or not it makes sense to file early or whether it makes sense to delay. Then, we start to think about filing strategies for married couples. So married couples have a little bit more options. They can file for their own benefits, or they can also file for spousal benefits. There is a lot of misconceptions though with spousal benefits. If both members of the couple or both partners have worked full-time and have not even substantially equal earnings, as long as it hasn't been super part-time to the top of the ladder with earnings, typically it does make sense to file for your own benefits, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. But again, in a couple, you can file for your own benefits or file for spousal. Did you have a question? No? Okay. So we're gonna look at Tom and Mary, a real life couple. They again were before 54 because their full retirement age is 66. But you can see they do have an age gap. Tom's a few years older than Mary. His full retirement age benefit would be $2,500 a month. Mary would have $1,200 a month full retirement age benefit. So both good benefits, but does Mary benefit for the spousal, or would she benefit from her own more? We are going to take a look. You think spousal? We shall see. So let's look at spousal benefits. So there are a few things that you need to check off the list in order to qualify. So first, you need to be 62 or older to qualify. You must have been married for at least 1 year. So nobody's flying to Vegas and then filing for Social Security spousal benefits the next day. It needs to be at least a year. The next, your spouse must first file for Social Security benefits. So if there is an age gap, the one filing for spousal benefits has to be over 62, and the original filer also has to be older than 62. If claimed at your full retirement age benefits, spousal benefit would be 1/2 of your spouse's full retirement age benefit. So you are correct. If she waits until her full retirement age, she would benefit from the spousal. It's not a significant difference in Tom and Mary's case because their earnings, hers were just about half of his, but she still would benefit. That little asterisk on the bottom is super important though. The spousal benefit is permanently reduced if you claim it before reaching full retirement age. So we'll talk about this in a second with Tom and Mary, but remember that they have a 3-year age gap. So if she files at like 66 or 64, 65, 63, she's going to take a reduction on that, and that's going to continue then for the rest of her. So
You'll go back to that?
we're going to cover this in a little bit more. We're going to look at 3 different scenarios for Tom and Mary, so I think we'll kind of cover it. So again, Tom's full retirement age benefit at 66 is $2,500 monthly. Mary's again is $1,200, but if we think about 50% of Tom's, that's actually $1,250. So while again, it is not a significant difference, she does still benefit from the spousal benefit, but she can only get the spousal benefit once Tom has filed. So let's look at that in action. So the first scenario that we're going to look at is what is probably most common for couples that have a significant gap in earnings, is that the higher earning spouse, if possible, typically delays till the end so that their benefit is the highest. So again, that means that instead of $2,500, Tom is taking an 8% increase each year that he delays. So in this case, he would collect $3,300. Mary does decide to file at her full retirement age. Because you can see how that lines up, Tom hasn't filed yet. So the first year that she files, because she is at her full retirement age, she collects her benefit, her full retirement age benefit, because Tom hasn't filed. But you see when Tom does file, her benefit will pop up, and then she'll get the spousal, because she can't collect the spousal if Tom's not collecting. So once he files, he gets the $3,300 a month, she gets the $1,250 per month. One of the common questions that we get is the $3,300. It is because the spousal benefit does not continue to increase past the full retirement age. So Tom's full retirement age benefit, if you remember, is $2,500 a month. So her maximum spousal benefit is $1,250. Even if he delays, she does not get more than that. She also doesn't get more than or less than that if he files early, which is the next scenario that we're going to take a look at. So again, this time Tom's going to file much earlier, and she will still wait for her full retirement age. So Tom's going to collect 4 years early, which means that he's taking a 24% reduction, because 6% times 4. So his benefit would be $1,800 monthly. She still waits for her full retirement age. So even though he's collecting $1,800, she's collecting the $1,250 because she, the filer for the spousal benefits, waited till her full retirement age. So she's not penalized, nor is she rewarded as long as she waits for her full. Yeah, okay. Last scenario, and this is where so Tom files at his full retirement age, so he's collecting $2,500. she's gonna file because they've done everything else in life together. She's gonna retire when he retires. So she is not waiting for her full retirement age in this instance. So we would take the $1,250 because he's filed first. She does get the spousal benefit, but we take the $1,250 and then we take 18% off of that because she is still filing 3 years early. So she is going to collect $1,025 monthly. He is gonna collect $25 monthly, and that will be their benefits until the first spouse to passes. And then what happens is their surviving spouse retains the higher benefit and the lower benefit will fall off. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, cool. So next, we're gonna talk about ex-spousal benefits. We're gonna add a little bit more spice to this chili.
Yeah, this is what I want to know.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the,
Sure.
okay, just real quick on this. So if, I'm gonna wait till 67
Okay. Waiting till 67 for the primary spouse.
for me,
Yep.
and she wants to collect now,
What age is she?
at 62.
Okay.
So at 67, she'll have a reduced,
If she doesn't qualify on her own, she cannot collect anything until you collect. So if the husband is waiting until 67 and the wife is currently 62 and wants to file, if she qualifies for her own benefit, then she can file for her own benefit. If the spousal benefit at 67, when you file, if you guys are the same age, by the way, if then you file and her benefit would increase because it's more than, the spousal benefit is more than what she's currently receiving, half of your full retirement age benefit would be more than she's receiving, then it would go up. But again, if she's filing at 62, it would be 50% and then like a 6% reduction for each year that she's filing early. So just to throw some numbers out there, let's say that your benefit on your own is $1,900 a month. Your benefit would be $3,000 at full retirement age. Divide that by 2, that's $1,500. So she wouldn't benefit from it then, if that makes any sense. So for questions like that, fill out the consultation card and we'll go over your specific situation in our office and all of that.
So, in that situation, so suppose the spouse died. Then if the person was 67, full,
Or both,
yeah, they would get the full amount of the
Yes, we will talk,
expired spouse.
correct.
regardless of age of ex-spouse.
So we're not talking about ex-spouses quite yet, but also we will talk about survivor benefits in just 1 second.
Okay.
So ex-spousal benefits, again, we're adding a little bit more spice to our chili. So as a divorced spouse, you may be entitled to Social Security benefits based on your ex's work record. So here's the things that need to happen. You have to have been married for at least 10 years. Obviously, marriages vary in length, so it has to be over 10 years. If it was 9 years at the date of marriage to divorce, not marriage to separation, but marriage to divorce, if it was less than 10 years, even though I'm sure it felt like longer than that, you don't qualify, which is super important. So that's number one. Next, you have to be 62 or older and your ex-spouse has to be 62 or older. So again, there is that age limit, and the ex-spouse, the one that is filing for the ex-spousal benefits, has to be unmarried at the time of filing. So if there is a remarriage, you do not qualify for spousal, you would only qualify for, I'm sorry, you don't qualify for ex-spousal, you only qualify for spousal because you've remarried. It doesn't matter whether the ex has remarried. The ex could have remarried several times, totally fine, or is, like divorced and then remarried and has been married to the same partner for like 25 years, whatever. As long as you are unmarried and you are the one filing, you can get that ex-spousal benefit. It is the same as spousal, it's 50%. I know that everyone's probably thinking about math, and a friend or family that has been married more than one time and it's more than 10 years, yet they're not married today. They would then qualify for the highest ex-spouse's benefit, as long as you're not married, both marriages, both or all three, whatever, it could happen that there's 3. Honestly, truly, they were dedicated, it could be 4, but they would have to be dedicated for that. But it could happen. But again, married for at least 10 years, 62 or older for both people, unmarried. Spouse that is filing for the ex-spousal benefits has to be unmarried at the time of filing.
How do you know what your ex-spouse?
How do you find out the ex-spouse's earnings?
Yeah.
When you file for your own benefits, that is when you find out if the ex-spousal is better than yours. But again, rule of thumb. So on this page, the highest, so the maximum full retirement age benefit in 2026 is $4,152. So, easy way to know whether you would have a chance of benefiting. If you take 4,152 divided by 2, that's $2,075, something like that. If your full retirement age benefit is larger than that, you don't qualify for spousal or ex-spousal. If it's less, you have a chance. But then your ex-spouse would have had to have been at the highest level of earning for almost their entire career. So, but I'm going to use myself and my husband as an example. We are close to the same age. I've graduated 1 year earlier than he did from college because he liked it a little bit more than I did. But we're close to the same age, and we've generally been working the same amount. And we have never earned the exact same amount of money, but we've earned close enough that I wouldn't benefit from a spousal benefit, nor would he, even if I stopped working today, or vice versa. So the difference in earnings has to be fairly significant, or there would have to be a stay-at-home parent, or like something like that, where one wasn't working and the difference was significant enough for those things to be the case. Any questions? The one thing that I didn't say that I should point out is you will not see that the ex-spouse has to have filed for benefits first. Whereas in spousal benefits, you cannot collect a spousal benefit until your spouse first files. In the event of divorce, everybody knows couples that still get along even though they're not married, and everyone also knows couples that don't. And in those that don't, they take out the incidents essentially of being spiteful, just to stick it to them that one last time. I'm not going to file just so they can't file. They took that off the table. There's none of that. So as long as each are 62 years or older, the ex-spouse can file for ex-spousal benefits. Remember though, if you are filing at 62, your earliest available, you're taking 50% and then a reduction for each year that you're filing early. So that would have to be the right thing to do in your financial situation. Okay, we're going to talk about survivor benefits next. Not the most fun topic, but we're going to tackle it. So survivor benefits are based on the earnings of the person who has passed away. You can collect a reduced survivor benefit as early as age 60. So let's touch on that again. So that means instead of, if your full retirement age is 67, and I would be taking a 30% reduction by filing as early as age 62, if I'm filing at 60, that's an additional 12% reduction that I'm taking from that benefit. So it's a 42% reduction in benefit to file as early as age 60. So again, it would have to be the right scenario for that to make sense. You do, however, get the full survivor benefit if you claim it at full retirement age. Because the spouse has passed on, if you are at the full retirement age, you do collect the full retirement age benefit. It is not a 50% reduction, it would be the full benefit. If you remarry before the age of 60 and are still married when filing for your benefits, you forfeit your survivor benefit. So using my dad as an example, my dad remarried my stepmom 2.5 years after my mom passed away. I'm actually a matchmaker. She was my 5th grade teacher, and it's the cutest story on the planet. But he got remarried my mom wasn't the higher wage earner anyway, so he wouldn't have collected her, like her benefit would not have been better than his. However, he still couldn't file for it because he remarried, and so he would get the spousal versus the survivor. Last, also super important, and then we'll come back to how it might make sense to collect that early benefit at age 60. So you can switch from your survivor benefit to your own benefit or vice versa at any time. So I'm going to come back to my husband and I. We have earned, again, essentially the same amount, and we're the same age. So if one of us were to unfortunately pass away, let's say at 58 or 59 or something like that, if he were the first to go, I could take his benefit as early as age 60. I could then wait and switch when mine becomes better. I've worked since I was like 17 or 16 or something like that, so I fully qualify for Social Security already. He does the same. So I could get that reduced benefit at age 60 and then switch over to his at 67 because switch over to mine at 67 or 70. Or if his benefit were significantly better than mine, I could take mine at 62 and wait till his fully matured at 67. So there's a couple of different solutions there where it might make sense to take the reduced benefit and not leave money on the table. But we will talk in a few slides about working and earning while collecting. And that has a significant barrier, if you will, to why you may not want to collect as early as possible. Okay, public pensions. So teachers, police officers, firefighters, state university retirement employees, anyone that works in that line of work in the state of Illinois does not pay into Social Security. That money that would be for Social Security goes into their pension. So they, however, in all of those same lines of work, it is not uncommon for them to also work a different job, whether that be tutoring, construction, whatever it may be. Because of the nature of the rhythm of how their work schedules are, it is not uncommon for them to still work and contribute to Social Security. So there used to be this thing called a windfall elimination provision, and then also a government pension offset. The windfall elimination provision was for that worker, that police officer, firefighter, teacher, professor, that collected a pension but also paid into Social Security. There used to be a reduction for that. And then the government pension offset is when you are collecting the pension but your spouse has passed and you would get spousal or survivor benefits. President Biden, right before going out of office last year in January, passed the Social Security Fairness Act, which eliminated both the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. So as long as, if that applies to you and you qualify for your pension, but also Social Security, you would no longer have a reduction. There's still a lot of moving pieces to those particular lines of work and benefits and all of those things. So if you have questions, again, fill out that comment card, come in for that complimentary consultation so that we can go through your individual situation. Okay. Raise your hand if you knew anything about retroactive benefits before tonight. No? Okay. So if you postpone your benefits past your full retirement age, so again, most people in this room is 67. So that means that you'd have to be at 67 and a half, 68, 69, anything in there. But if you postpone your benefits past your full retirement age, you can request a lump sum payment of up to 6 months of retroactive benefits. The key though is that it's retroactive. So you're getting that 6-month lump sum back, meaning that if you're collecting $2,000 a month, that would be a $12,000 check that you would get. But you're taking a step back in time too. So if I'm 67 and a half, it would be like I'm filing at 67 because I'm taking essentially the last 6 months that I've skipped over, I'm taking it all in one lump sum, but my time goes back that 6 months to the retroactive date. Does that make sense? Okay. So your future benefit is based on the lower amount, and that note on the bottom, retroactive benefits are not available for any month prior to your full retirement age. So if you are at age 66 and your full retirement age is 67, that will not be a discussion that they have with you. It is only something that you are qualified for if you're past your full retirement age. And it typically, what I would say with that is typically you've waited on purpose because you wanted that higher benefit for the remainder of your life. However, we all know there can be things that change, medical circumstances, big crazy expenses that you weren't expecting, things like that. So in some cases it still does make sense, but it would be something that you would want to kind of think through before filing so that you know what your answer might be. Yeah.
So if you, just use an example of 67 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And you get paid the retroactive for waiting
Yeah.
6 months.
But then it's like so if you're, again, filing at 67 and a half and you take the retroactive benefit, that means that you're really going back to age 67. So you're taking that, it would be like a 4% reduction in the benefit.
If you ask for the retroactive? Or you,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, only if you ask for the
Wait for
retroactive.
67 and a half, you get the higher monthly benefit.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yep. If you wait till 67 and a half and you do not request the lump sum,
Okay.
they will talk to you about it, or at least that's been my experience with clients, is once you're past that full retirement age, they do talk to you about it. But if you delay beyond that, you do not, and you don't take the lump sum, then you get that higher benefit, which is typically why you waited to file in the first place.
So the easy question is, knowing how long you're going to live.
Right, and if you had a crystal ball to know exactly your last day, it would make so many things so much easier.
62, that equilibrium point is like 78 or whatever it is.
Well, it depends, like that equilibrium point is not the same for everyone because everyone in this room would have a different benefit.
But there's
So,
an equilibrium point
yes,
for everyone, regardless of their special.
correct. Yes, everyone has a different,
Just,
yeah.
For example, let's use 78. Like if you collect 62 versus 67,
Sure,
and you collect earlier, you're collecting more per month.
Correct.
Whatever, at 62 whatever it is, 77 or whatever that age is, that equilibrium point.
to collect Social Security, which we'll get to in a second. It doesn't make sense for me to collect it. I can withdraw my benefits. I have to pay back the gross amount of everything that I've received from those 10 months. And if I'm able to do that, they will essentially erase my filing from the system. I can only do it one time. You're limited to one withdrawal of benefits during your lifetime. So if that would be a situation, at 62 you started benefits and then you withdrew, and then at 65 again, you really stopped working, you would want to make sure that you really want to collect benefits at that time, because there is no going back after that. I have actually seen it happen though. Making but you can see in 1990 was 5.4. It went down to 1.3 in 98, shot back up in 2000 to 3.5. In 2008, it went to 5.8, but then you also remember 2009 and 10 where it was 0. If you also remember back to that time, interest rates were also close to nothing as far as what you would get at the bank, but mortgage rates also hovered around 3.5% for a very long time. So they really didn't, mortgage rates really didn't pop back up until the cost of living increase popped back up in 2023. 2022 is when interest rates started to pop on savings as well as, and 2023 had 8.7. We've gone down and then back up. So 2026, the cost of living increase was 2.8%. Not horrible, also not gonna make you not have to work anymore or anything like that. The biggest thing to know with the cost of living increases is that while you get a bump in your Social Security benefit, I know you're not going to be surprised, but your Medicare benefit, especially your Part B and the supplements, typically also have a cost of living increase at. So this year, the difference in benefit, or the difference in the cost, or the Medicare payment, was $185 a month in 2025, and it's $202 and some change for Part B in 2026. So that could have all been eaten up. Your 2.8% could have been eaten up all by the Medicare increase. But no matter what, one thing I know for sure, anybody that has questions with Social Security will also have questions with Medicare. So I have your Medicare problem solved tonight. So if you look back there, Lisa, I'm not sure if it's floral or whatever, but it's very colorful. Lisa Schumacher is a Medicare insurance agent. So if you have any questions regarding Medicare, she would be very happy to answer them for you, and you can kill two birds with one stone today. So anyway, so that's cost of living increase. They typically announce it in November or December, and it's way too early to tell in this year what we're looking at for next year. But just know that typically there is a little bit of an increase. All right, so I had mentioned this before, but there are penalties for collecting while you're still working. So if you collect Social Security, so let's go, so this first column on the left, under your full retirement age. So think of that as age 62 to 66. If I am working and also collecting Social Security benefits during that time, my income limitations before I start to have a penalty would be $24,480 annually. That is part-time, truly that's part-time work. So if you're collecting and working, it has to make sense, because every dollar that I earn above that $24,480 is going to be penalized, and they will withhold $1 for every 2 that I'm over earning that. So just to give you a real life example, if I was earning $40,000, I'm $15,000 and some change over that earning limit, right? I'm just going to say $15,000 for easy math. But if they withhold $1 for every 2 that I'm over, and I'm $15,000, that means that they will withhold from my Social Security checks. if I receive a check of $2,000 per month, that means that I wouldn't get a check in January, February, March, and most of April. I would get about $500 in April, and then I would get May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. That's still $7,500 that I'm not collecting because I'm earning and collecting at the same time. So it's very important that you make sure that you are filing that early because your earnings make sense.
Does that amount ever change?
Does the 24,480 ever change? Slightly, but not a lot.
Okay.
So that means you can't make over that.
Correct. If you're collecting and you make over that, you will be penalized $1 for every 2 that you're over.
Under 67.
Under 66.
Under
But
67.
you get it
Yes.
back, you get it back, right?
No, you don't.
No, you
You
don't.
don't?
No.
No.
Why would they withhold it if they're going to give it back to you?
I thought you get it back at some point, no?
I mean, you collect more money eventually, but they don't give it back.
Oh, 266.
So the next column, so the middle column is the year of your full retirement age. So think of 66 to 67 in that column. If I'm working and collecting, you can see there's a lot more wiggle room. I can earn up to $65,000 without having any penalty. Additionally, they'll only withhold $1 for every 3 that I'm over, which means I have a lot more wiggle room. If I was earning that $65,000 and I collected, I would be fine. If I was earning $100,000 and I wanted to collect, they would still withhold probably $13,000 from my benefits. If I'm also delaying, obviously I'm collecting 6% more per year than I would be than I was collecting at 62. So obviously it's a good chunk more. However, that still has to be the right scenario, because if I wait until my full retirement age, so for me I'm a September birthday, if I wait till September or beyond, I can work as much as I want, earn as much as I want, and collect Social Security, and I don't have to worry about any penalties. So that's super important, because then no penalties, I'm still paying taxes, which is another conversation. But if my goal is income supplementation, which is typically the goal if I'm still working as well as I'm collecting, that would be the sweet spot where I don't get penalized. I can collect as much as I want and work as much as I want and save as much as I can. So next.
Question.
Yeah.
Does that apply if your birthday's in December? In January?
Still counts for your full retirement age. So, so going back to his question, does that count if your birthday's in September? Yes, that 65,160 is essentially divided by month. So if you divide that by 12, it's a little over $5,000. Be like 5,250 or something like that. Meaning that if my average earnings each month are higher than that, I'm being penalized the difference each month. So long story short, if I'm that close to collecting, I would just wait until my full retirement age.
Meaning 70.
No, 67.
Oh, okay.
That's your full retirement age.
So where it says
Month of full retirement age.
67.
Correct.
So what's the middle one then?
The year before, so 66
Okay.
to 67. Okay, next thing on the list, which I think is everyone's favorite topic. I did get a few chuckles, I know it's no one's favorite, but the federal taxation of Social Security. So, how they determine what you pay taxes on in your Social Security benefit is a combination of pieces of income, and it totals a thing called provisional income, which may be the first time that you're hearing that today. But if you look at your tax return, if you're not yet collecting, you'll notice it when you file. But there's a line, I think it's line 7, but I could be wrong. But regardless what line it is, when it asks what your Social Security earnings are, the first line is your total benefit. The second line on that same, the second number is how much you're taxed on. It is never the same amount. You can be taxed 0% up to 85% of it can be taxable. But the number in those two little boxes will never be the same. But what consists, or what it makes up my provisional income? So it is the combination of my adjusted gross income, non-taxable interest, and half of my Social Security benefit. Let's dig a little deeper into that. So, my provisional income threshold. So there's 3 different thresholds and then 2 different categories. So single head of household or married separately, if my provisional income is below $25,000, I will not pay a dime of tax on my Social Security benefit. For married filing jointly, if my provisional income is below $32,000, I will not pay a dime of tax on my Social Security benefit. Next column, for married, single head of household or married filing separately, if my brackets are between $25,000 and $34,000, up to 50% of my Social Security benefit can be taxable. For married filing jointly, it's $32,000 to $44,000. So again, up to that number, up to 50% of my Social Security income could be taxable. Then the last column, up to 85% of my Social Security income will be taxable. So for single head of household or married filing separately, anything above $34,000, 85% of my Social Security benefit is taxable. And married filing jointly, anything above $44,000. And if you think about that, that's not a ton of money at the end of the day. But how, like the combination of that income is what's most important. As a reminder, provisional income includes the sum of wages, taxable and non-taxable interest, dividends, pensions, self-employment, and other taxable income, plus half of my annual Social Security benefits. We're going to take a look at an example. We're going to look at 2 different couples, and this will probably help solidify this just a little bit. But so couple number 1 and couple number 2, if you see total income right there, they're each taking home $67,000 annually. It is a matter of how they take that $67,000 home that makes the big difference. So couple number 1 has $5,000 of interest income from CDs, $10,000 of interest income or dividend income, from stocks, and $5,000 of tax-free bond interest income. So that would be like a municipal bond. Oddly enough, you don't actually pay tax on it, but it is added back for your provisional income. Then they're taking $25,000 from a traditional IRA. They have not yet paid tax on that money. They pay tax on it as they distribute it. And then again, $22,000 of Social Security benefits. So the only thing that we will subtract from that $67,000 for couple number 1 is half of their Social Security benefit. So we're going to take $11,000 off of that total income, which brings us to a provisional income of $56,000. So they are well above that threshold, and their Social Security is going to be 85% of their Social Security benefit is going to be taxed. So let's break that down a little bit. So 85% of $22,000 is about $18,500. So $18,500 of their Social Security benefit is going to be subject to tax, and they would be in the 12% tax bracket. So their taxable, the tax that they would pay on the Social Security would be about $2,200 in the 12% tax bracket with $18,500 taxable. So that's what the tax that they would pay on their Social Security. They would also pay tax on the IRA income, the dividend interest, and the dividend and the interest.
I have a question.
Sure.
What about if you're not cashing in any of those, you're just cashing in the Social Security, you still have to claim them?
No, this is truly what they're claiming in income.
Okay, so if you're not claiming anything but Social Security.
If you can live off of your Social Security, I'm going to guess that it's going to be taxed, because your provisional income limit, to go back to that, if you're living straight off of your Social Security, half of the benefit is going to be taxable, so it would be $44,000. I'm going to guess that you would at least be in the $32,000, if not in the $44,000, even if it's half of the benefit, if you're able to live and pay all of your bills off of it.
What if you're not collecting Social Security, or you're not getting an income through working?
Well, then you don't have to worry about how your Social Security is taxed yet, if you're not collecting and not earning.
You're not collecting Social Security. But does that reduce your salary amount throughout the years at all, or?
If you're not, if you're not putting into the system, then it would be in the averages of your Social Security benefit, certainly, because you're gonna have zeros in there.
If you're not collecting, if you're not making as much through whatever as when you're working, it could potentially work against your Social Security based on what you're making. The longer you wait to do that, and the longer you wait to.
So at the end of the day, like if you've got your maximum 35 years of earnings, if you have those zeros, it's not gonna bring you down.
Okay, so 35 years is the cutoff kind of thing?
It's how your Social Security benefit is calculated. So again, if you've worked for 40 years,
Right.
they're going to take the 5 lowest years of earnings out, and your benefit is based on the highest 35 years.
Yeah, 40 years and, 0 to 40, and then, but after that,
Then it's not going to affect your benefit.
it's not going to impact, if you're
No.
making less than what you were when you were working.
Correct.
Even though you're not collecting Social Security.
Right, because you're also none of the earnings that you would live off of is what goes into Social Security anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
So, okay, last. So couple number 2, they have the same $5,000 of interest income from CDs. They have the same $10,000 of dividend income from stocks. They have the same $5,000 of tax-free bond interest income. They have $25,000 this time, not a traditional IRA, but from a Roth IRA, which means that they have already paid the taxes on those funds. They are not paying taxes again. And then again, $22,000 in Social Security. So we're gonna take, from that $67,000, we're gonna take the $25,000 from the Roth because that's not taxable, and then $11,000 of the Social Security benefit again. So in this case, their provisional income is $31,000. It's right below the $32,000 cutoff for the provisional income. So couple number 2 will pay 0 tax on their Social Security. They don't pay tax on the Roth IRA income. They don't pay tax on the tax-free bond interest income either. And as a couple, their standard deduction is going to be more than what their income is, so they would actually not pay taxes if this was their income. Which is, the income strategy in retirement opens up a lot of opportunities because you might be in a lower tax bracket already because your earnings aren't as high, and that opens up opportunity to do different Roth conversions and things like that, where you might just be able to set yourself up for excellent tax efficiency in retirement. Are you ready to come around with the microphone for questions? Okay. We're gonna come around with that microphone, and then if there's any questions from the Zoom as well.
Hi, I'm doing delayed.
Okay, so you're waiting till 70?
Just hold it a little closer.
Yes.
Okay,
So I'll get that delayed for the maximum.
Correct.
Just roll. That I'm aware of. I'm significantly older than my wife.
okay.
If she lived, if I pass and she's 65 years old, does she get that full amount that I'm getting in 4 years?
So she takes a little bit of a reduction because she's not filed anything yet. She would take a little reduction.
Does that reduction increase the max level again at any point, or does it just stay there?
No,
If she ages to full retirement age?
no,
would
it does
stay
not. It
consistent.
stays, yeah.
So it's up to me to stay alive.
Yeah,
All right,
pressure's on.
pressure's on. I actually had 2, but I think thank you.
All right, and I think that gentleman had a question too.
Question?
Yeah, hello. What is the difference between the IRA and the Roth IRA?
Excellent question. The difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA is the taxability of the funds when you make the deposit into it. So a traditional IRA, so you take your gross income, anything that you put into a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, you take off of your taxable income prior to the deposit in that IRA. it grows tax deferred, and upon distribution, you pay tax according to your tax bracket at the time of distribution. So that's a traditional, it's pre-tax money. So if I'm making $100,000, I can do $7,000 into a traditional IRA, or if I'm going into a traditional 401k, which is again pre-tax, it's $23,500 without any of the catch-up contributions and things like that. So if I'm doing both, I could take $32,500 off of my $100,000 before I start paying taxes. So then, instead of paying tax on $100,000, I'm paying tax on like $67,500, which is a much different or lower bracket than if I were at the $100,000, knowing that I'm going to pay taxes later. The Roth IRA, I'm taking that same $100,000, but I'm paying tax on it first. And then after that, so let's just say on an individual, I think I would be in the 22% tax bracket then, so I'm going to take $22,000 off, and then I'm going to make those contributions, and then I'm going to pay my bills with whatever's left. But I've already paid the tax on that money, so then it grows tax deferred, but it gets distributed tax-free because I paid the money before I put it in. I paid the tax before I put it in. So if there's a give and go on that, because obviously you want the most amount of money that you can now, but at the same time, in retirement, you truly have a lot more income flexibility and tax flexibility if you delay.
Just a follow-up. I've heard commercials.
Sorry, wait for the mic.
Yeah, there are commercials that say that you don't have to pay taxes when you roll over into a Roth IRA.
That is incorrect. If you roll it over from your 401k, if it's a traditional 401k to a traditional IRA, it stays under the same umbrella. But once it goes into the Roth, it's fully taxable. Okay. And if you had worked for a large sum, you know, like let's just say that you worked, it's uncommon anymore that you've worked for 30 years for the same company. It happens every once in a while, but it's not super common. But if you had, and you had $750,000, if you roll that all at one time, you're gonna be at the highest tax, almost the highest tax bracket possible, which is not something that you would probably want to do. We would take that in phases with our clients. So,
Is there a dollar amount limit?
To a Roth?
Contributions to a Roth, yes.
Dollar amount limit on contributions to Roth. In 2026, I think they actually increased it to $7,100 if you are prior to, like, so I'm 45. I can contribute $7,100, and then there's a catch-up contribution. And total, if you're in the catch-up phase, you can do $8,600 into a traditional or a Roth, but it has to be earned income. It cannot be income from dividends. It has to be like earned income, so income from your work.
Not from Social Security?
Nope. Although that is derived from your work, it is not considered that same type of income.
So it's just what pocket I pick it out of. It's
Yeah.
just which pocket I pay from.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be 62 this summer.
Okay.
I'm not working, I haven't been working for a few years.
Okay.
I'm living off of my 401k,
Okay.
but I want to take my Social Security at 62.
Okay.
But I want to stop taking from my mutual funds, only for my Social Security.
Okay.
So I want to figure out how much taxable, is it better for me to only take out for Social Security or both at the same time? My mutuals.
That is not something that I would be able to answer for you.
Okay, okay.
I can answer that, like if you did the consulting session, just so that we have all of the context.
Sure, okay, not a problem.
But to answer that though, if you're only taking from Social Security, it's totally fine if that pays your bills. But like you would have to have no other bills, like no house payment, no.
I'm not worried.
Is he your retirement plan?
He's part of it,
There you go.
yeah, so.
You had a question?
No.
But okay, but let me just follow up on that. If there's one spouse still working and one spouse collecting, that's a whole different ballgame because you're filing jointly.
No, we're not married.
Okay, so then it's an individual. So there's still consulting sessions so I can answer your questions.
Is it cheaper to get divorced?
No, because if you're divorced and you inherit retirement funds, then you have to take them as a beneficiary versus them rolling over to yourself. So no.
I'm gonna look into my exes.
Okay.
'Cause I know I'm way more money.
Okay, I just had a question about the ex-spousal deceased benefits.
Okay.
I know you went over it, but if you.
If
were
you
not
can use
FRA
specific ages, if you can use specific ages.
Okay, so if you're not 67 yet, and your ex-spousal has already deceased and they received it at 65, would you receive the full amount until you actually are FRA at 67, or not?
If you, so let's just say, you said you're 62?
62.
Okay. You will be taking that full retirement age benefit minus 6% for each year that you're filing early. So it's the full benefit, but it's still 30% reduction if you're filing at 62.
So you have to wait till you're 67?
For the full retirement age benefit, yes.
Okay.
Now, in a spouse, we'll take Tom and Mary for example. If Tom filed at 65 and Mary filed, let's just also say at 65, even though his benefit is higher, if they're 70 when they pass away, she's still taking the benefit as if he filed at 65. It does not pop up to the full retirement age. So that's very important. It is not something that I've commonly run into with ex-spouses, but I do believe that it would be the same where you would not pop up to the full retirement age. If they had started collecting at 65, you get their benefit as they collected it.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
right.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear?
I did not hear the question that you asked.
Okay, so she was asking about ex-spousal benefits. So her ex-spouse is already passed on. I believe that's the gist of the question, is he's already passed on, but he started collecting at 65. She is 62. So she was wondering if she would get the full retirement age benefit or not. And I do not believe, I am not 100, like, do not write this in stone. If I can get the answer for you, fill out that questionnaire and I can get the answer for you. But I believe what would happen is that she would get that benefit, his 65 benefit, because that's when he filed. But if she was filing earlier than 65, then she's still taking the reduction because that's how all of that works out. Okay.
Yes. So we need to wrap up because
Yes.
we're over time today. Thank you so much for being with us, Stacy. I am going to, if you're viewing from home, I'm going to send out Stacy's information
Yes.
as well as the recording of
Yes.
this program tonight, so you will get all of that information.
Yes, and if you are interested in the consultation, fill out that comment card and I would be happy to collect it from you. We will be discussing your personal financial situation, so we would uncover your specific tax planning opportunities as well as your Social Security filing options.
Yeah, 'cause that's
Perfect.